we had a fight last night, what sort of happened? I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you've got a massive scab on the end of your nose. And I went like that, and it was the chocolate from the cappuccino had literally dried on the nose. No matter what anyone ever tells you, people will say this dream that it's easy. It's not. And the reason why it's not is because you become so distracted by the concept of raising money.
Yes.
You kind of lose focus on the day-to-day of running a business. So you have to manage your time. If you are raising capital, have the sight of profitability.
Something that I've read in the press and stuff more is that in Europe now there's a bigger appetite and funds are getting bigger for VC money and investing. Have you seen that in your time?
So this year alone is a joke. So
I was looking at your website just before coming in actually, and I saw Kerrygold. Was a company you worked with. I'm from Kerry in Ireland, so I was glad to see that one. Yeah.
Great Irish butter.
Ben Jeffries, it's great to have you on the podcast, Coffee for Scalers. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to actually do this in person as well, rather than over Zoom.
Yes, so nice. It's so nice actually coming into London this morning. People are actually here on the street and working and everything. It's good to see. But yes, thank you for joining. I've been a big admirer of what you've done in this space, in the influencer space over the last few years, creating influencer.com and seeing that business grow. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. I was watching some of your other Coffee for Scalers podcasts the other day.
Yeah.
One with Melissa over at Jungle Creations. And it's great to see, I guess, the industry itself booming at the moment. So excited to come on, talk a little bit more about influencer.com and the journey so far.
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, it's still kind of at the point of, is this industry too small for such a big podcast? But hopefully it can grow over time. But yes, great to have you here. And how's life been?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been, it's been a hectic last year. I think it's been a hectic last year for everyone, I think. The pandemic, it was a tough few months when that kind of first hit in terms of lockdown wise. But then I suppose, when that panic kind of stopped, influencer marketing really came to the forefront, because while that, panic was going on from the advertisers, consumers were just spending so much time on their phones, so much time on social media consuming content. So then it seemed natural that when the advertisers wanted to go back spending, where would they go? Well, they'd go to where the eyeballs were, which was on social media. So ever since kind of the world's reopened, so to speak, we've just seen, brands who we thought would take a couple of years to perhaps go in the direction of influencer marketing come over with some pretty significant budgets. And it's been an exciting journey. The team's grown. We've won some really cool accounts, as I mentioned. Our tech has come a long way. I'm really excited for the rest of this year, but also for the years to come.
Yeah, cool. There was I was looking at your website just before coming in actually, and I saw Kerrygold. Was a company you worked with. I'm from Kerry in Ireland, so I was glad to see that one. Yeah,
great Irish butter.
Yeah, it looked like a great campaign. And what is it, do you think, during the pandemic that changed things as well for brands? What do you think's changed that it's booming a bit more?
Well, I think, for consumers, it was that people were probably quite tired of the news. It was obviously quite, depressing, I guess, to put it. And people wanted real relatable content, which was more, uplifting and entertaining. And that's really where, TikTok is a prime example, came to fruition. It came out of nowhere. Everyone went on TikTok. There was those trends like TikTok made me buy it. There was that ocean spray one which people were reenacting. There were songs going back in the charts which had not been in the charts for 20 odd years. And I think because consumer preference had changed, advertisers were then needing to actually go on to where those consumers actually eyeballs were.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think like my background being at YouTube years ago as well, and seeing Casper as an example, merge as an influencer on YouTube, and then Instagram become much bigger, and now TikTok. In terms of brands' appetite, have you seen what's been the general appetite for YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram? Is it equal or
Yes.
Or should I even look at it that way?
Well, last year, I'd say 90% of our campaigns would include an element of Instagram. And that was because, whether there be a YouTube campaign, Instagram stories would always be included. But what we started seeing more and more this year is that, a lot of the creators and the influencers who are on TikTok don't necessarily have those large audiences on the other platforms. And TikTok was really good at kind of creating this fresh wave of creators, which is perhaps why it attracted so much attention, right? Because more and more people wanted to become creators. And we are seeing a large shift in our campaigns being TikTok. So I'd probably say now it's more 60% Instagram, 30% TikTok, 10% YouTube. We don't really get involved in the other platforms. We have the odd Snap campaign, the odd LinkedIn campaign, but really the main 3 networks are Instagram, TikTok, and then YouTube.
Why do you think YouTube's so low?
I think YouTube has been such a dominating force, and even my co-founder Casper, one of the OG YouTubers, so to speak.
They're growing up and older now,
Exactly. I think YouTube still has a massive part. I mean, in terms of the average watch time, that users spend on YouTube, it's still a big factor. I suppose just the clients that we work with, the focus has really been short form content, and that's where TikTok has really prevailed. But also, Instagram has really prevailed with the creation of Reels, and how stories has developed so much. So I think advertisers are wanting quick reactions and quick campaigns and large numbers of pieces of content, and that's where Instagram and TikTok do have I guess that slight edge over it. But that's not to say YouTube is ignored. We still do have YouTube campaigns, particularly on ambassador style campaigns. So when creators are being signed on board for 6, 9, 12-month campaigns, YouTube does play a massive part to that, especially because they can actually properly show a product in action. They can properly, maybe do a haul to actually show, different items that they're purchasing. So YouTube still definitely has a place for influence marketing.
Okay, cool. Okay, so switching gears a bit. First of all, I want a funny work story from you. Something that's happened to you, or something that's been funny in work.
So I'd probably go for an example, which was when we were raising investment. So raising investment 2 years ago, it was part of our Series A investment round, and went out and was pitching to investors, and I met them in this restaurant in London, right? And it was in a private room in this restaurant. And as I was sitting waiting for them to arrive, sitting there by myself, and I'm a big coffee drinker. So someone was like, "Oh, would you like a cappuccino?" I was like, "Yeah, of course, cappuccino, come on in." Started having drinking half my coffee, and the investment meeting went on, and it was maybe an hour meeting. I was pitching influencer and all the rest of it. And then at the end of the meeting, the investors go to me, "Look, we've got to ask, we had a fight last night, what sort of happened?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, you've got a massive scab on the end of your nose." And I went like that, and it was the chocolate from the cappuccino, had literally dried on the nose. So I was like, "Oh my God, this is heartbreaking." The whole investment meeting that I was doing here, they were literally just assuming that I'd been in a fight last night, and I had the audacity to turn up to a meeting with this scar. And it was like, oh. So there's, a life hack. If you turn up to a meeting and you have a coffee before anyone turns up in the meeting, check your nose for any dry chocolate on your nose.
Is it something like the first 8 seconds an impression in a person? Hopefully it happened after that. Honestly, but they actually did invest. So,
good. It might be too much of that.
Good.
Deterrent.
Yeah, good. Actually, big coffee drinker. How many cups of coffee is too much in a day?
I mean, there is no such thing, especially with Pret subscriptions these days. I mean, you get 5 coffees including the Pret subscriptions. I probably have about 5 coffees a day.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. Like one before work, one when I arrive at work, one maybe at 11, one at 3, and then I'm the sort of bloke who will as well have a coffee at about 5 o'clock. Get like caffeine pumped into
me. Good. Okay, so when was Influencer founded actually? What year?
Yeah, so it's founded, so it's quite interesting, I guess, how the dynamics of influencers were founded. So I suppose I launched the concept of influencer back in 2015 when I was at university. I saw a gap in the market with regards to brands working with creators. And I wanted to basically connect brands and creators and see how this would work. So I tested it out with a few brands. I reached out to a few people on Twitter who had some followers. And I was noting the success. And at this time, while I was working with a few brands, it was like the dating app Happen. I managed to persuade a company called European Bartender School.
While you were in university?
While I was at university at Bath. And I was like, okay, I probably made about 100 grand's worth of revenue while I was at university. And I was like, this is fucking good. It's amazing. So I was like, okay, well, let's drop out of university. See, that didn't go down too well with my parents, but I was like, let's drop out of university, try and focus on this full time. And I did that, and this was about 2017, so it was about 2 years of trialing it. And my best friend, we like to call this a Tinder success story, my best friend, this girl called Maddie, had matched with Casper on Tinder. And I was like, oh my god, this is like written in the stars. I was like, amazing. I was like, I'm trying to launch this company. I just dropped out of university.
Cappuccino day.
Literally panicked. And I was like, what do I do here? And then I said to Maddie, I was like, look, I know you've only been on one date with Casper, but can you please introduce me to him? And he's like the world's incredible. She was
Is
like,
Maddie his girlfriend now?
No,
sorry.
That's
Amber.
I was like, you've got to introduce me. And then she was like, look, give it a few weeks, then I'll ask Casper and see what happens. And she did, and me and Casper had a meeting. It was supposed to be like a 30-minute coffee. Ended up being about a 4-hour strategy session about where we could take influencer. And like Casper, really understands the creator economy really, really well. So he's like really, got that creative side of the coin sorted out influencer. And for me, before I went to university, I worked in classified ads for a year. So I got a bit of taste for wanting to work with like advertisers. Said no one ever who actually felt like classified
kind
ads.
of like the sales side, kind of the hustle and stuff.
Exactly. So I felt like I had a real strong passion for the advertisers, Casper with the creators, and ultimately that helps now build the meaningful relationships between the brands and the creators that we work with.
Have you, that's fascinating. Have you changed the strategy of the business much over that period of time?
Absolutely, pretty much every year. I mean, ultimately, when we first, I guess, then launched to market in 2017, we had this vision that we were going to be an influencer marketing platform that would be completely self-service, that would connect brands and creators.
It's hard, isn't it? The tech.
It burns a lot of cash to have. So, we were here trying to do this platform, this self-service, but then we were sitting in the middle. And what we were noticing was that the brands were coming to us asking for support. The creators were coming to us asking for support. And we were only taking self-service margins. And we were like, we're never going to run a sustainable business model on this, because we're basically hand-holding brands, hand-holding creators, but only taking, 5 or 10% margins from there. So we said, okay, well, why don't we offer like this white glove service where we will charge out to brands and basically be the brands on the platform and speak directly with the creators. And there was so much appetite for that. A lot of brands didn't really know, what strategies would work on influencer marketing. They didn't necessarily have the insights that we had and the data we had on campaigns. So ultimately, we then decided, okay, well, let's kind of, deprecate the self-service play, and that it would just be us dealing with the creators on behalf of the brands. And we've scaled up our technology to work in that fashion since. And we've got this technology called Waves, which essentially acts as a technology between ourselves and the brands, and then we've got a separate creator mobile app with ourselves and the creators, and it's worked really well. And it's something which I suppose it was a bit of a test and learn at the start, but it's helped evolve to the business model that we're at today.
Yeah, and you need both of those components. Like one isn't more focused than the other.
Exactly. I mean, you need a really efficient process between yourselves and the creators to basically make your campaign efficiency so much quicker, because you need to be able to do contracts at scale, negotiate prices, get content from the creators, do the reporting, something at scale. So you have to do that. And then ultimately, advertisers, you can't be sending them Google Sheets with results. So we basically have dashboards where they can see all the live results of the campaigns without us asking with them. They also have the ability to do creator approving, content approving via these dashboards. But it's us, I guess, putting forward the recommendations, and us, vetting the content and vetting the creators before we present it.
It sounds like an amazing service. That you provide. Cool. Any tips for people out there raising money?
So I suppose the answer to the first question was, what was raising money like? Stressful. No matter what anyone ever tells you, people will say this dream that it's easy. It's not. And the reason why it's not is because you become so distracted by the concept of raising money that you kind of lose focus on the day-to-day of running a business. And ultimately, you're raising money to support the growing business that you're also running. And if the business that isn't as growing as it was when you went out to raise money, then that has effects on both sides. So you have to manage your time on both sides. And that's actually why for our Series A we use advisors. It's like an intermediary firm to help support us, so that I wasn't too distracted away from the day-to-day running of the business, to ensure that we were consistently growing at the growth rates that we wanted. But I think especially when you do like a series round, so Series A, B, or C, it becomes, it's much more professional. You're going out, you're pitching to venture capitals or private equity firms, and they do a lot of due diligence on you as well. So we went out to the market, we got offers very, very quickly. We had offers from about 3 venture capitals, and that was all within, I guess, the first month of actually going out and pitching. But then what then proceeded to go on afterwards was about 4 months worth of due diligence. So literally no stone left unturned, as they say. So everything from going in the weeds of our tech due diligence, doing everything from commercial due diligence, speaking to our clients, speaking to our creators, all of that, which is very time consuming because you're constantly having to submit information. But I must say, at the end of the due diligence process, you are very confident in your own business model, because you're now like, this has been so thoroughly checked that you now have the confidence moving forward that it's a business model which is being supported by a venture capital to really drive for growth.
Do you, and as a founder of the business and the CEO, a co-founder, are you thinking kind of like, I don't want to take too much money, I prefer to like grow the business into a profitable business? Or talk to me about that. Yeah,
it's interesting. So I suppose in terms of how much money you want to take on and how much, I think you always have in the back of your mindset, and I was always told very early that equity is king, so to speak. Essentially, when you do go to exit or do like an IPO or any capital event, you want to have as much of the pie as possible, so to speak. But that being said, is speed is everything, especially in a fast-growing market. And when there are competitors around us who'd raised a lot of money, like Goat as a prime example, they'd launched with £3 million investment. Whaler themselves had raised £3 million investment. We were seeing all of these companies raising capital, and we thought, okay, well, at that time we'd only raised like 500 grand, and we were like, we can't hire people as quickly and take as many risks without capital. So that's why we went out for the Series A. We did raise, as I mentioned, £3 million. And it was the right decision, because it enabled us to straight away open up an office in Kiev, which is where all our developers were based. Get a team of 12 pretty quickly, have that control in house, because our developers were all outsourced previously. So we retained that control. And then it also enabled us to bring on board some really great hires in the UK, and essentially grow out our business. So I definitely feel it was the right decision to raise capital, and very supportive of it. But ultimately, you're not raising on the dream of a hockey stick, so to speak, which they always have, where you're losing money for so long, and then you might eventually make profit. Like, we are a profitable business now, and it's something which, again, is important to be, especially when you are driving growth, because it allows you to be able to make more decisions whether you want to open in country A, or you want to invest in new technology Z. So I think if you are raising capital, have this sight of profitability. Unless you're unless you're building a pure play SaaS tech model, then that's a little bit different. But I wouldn't say that's what my own experience is.
That's fascinating. And one question, actually, something that I've read in the press and stuff more, is that in Europe now there's a bigger appetite, and funds are getting bigger for VC money and investing. Have you seen that in your time?
So I mean, this year alone is a joke. So I was at this GP Bullhound event, Investor All Stars it was called. Basically they're like an investment bank in the middle who help advise companies on raising capital, but also helping them do like M&A and things like that. And they were basically saying that this year alone they have done more transactions in value-wise than they have in their last 20 years worth of existence.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Wow. I think it was they've done 397 billion this year, and in their last 20 years it was 350. I think it was the numbers. Have to fact check those. But the premise is that last year, essentially, there was a lot of capital tied up, which people didn't want to spend because they weren't really sure which types of businesses were going to boom, so they were holding back cash. But then, because of the way a lot of these venture capital, these private equity funds work, they can't open up a new fund until their previous amount of money has been deployed. So this year, there are crazy valuations, crazy amounts of cash being put in the system, because they're trying to spend the money so they can open up their next fund.
Wow. Yeah.
So you are literally seeing a huge influx of cash, especially from the US,
Yeah.
being poured into industries. And it's exciting, but it does make you think: is this overinflated? Is it not? But then, I mean, it's anyone's guessing game right now. To see where the market will be in a year's time, so to speak.
The creator economy is just like so hot right now. And actually, one thing I was thinking about recently, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I was thinking about, okay, in TV, you basically had a limited supply of content that could be on the shelf, and you had people who control the distribution. Now you have Facebook, TikTok, Google, Instagram, and content is becoming much more valuable for those platforms because they know that influencers generate eyeballs. Do you think that we're going to see that pendulum swing more and more to like, okay, it makes sense that more money is like being distributed in this way versus the tech distributors holding a lot of the money? What's your thoughts?
So I mean, there's so much in this, right? So there is billions of pounds important for the creator economy. So like on that note, let's just look at Cameo as an example, right? They raised it at £1 billion valuation. Amazing. OnlyFans as a business, it's obviously got a couple of question marks over the type of content there. But again, the business model itself is worth billions of pounds. Now, that's incredibly exciting. I think, Cameo themselves just acquired a company called Represent, who've been like a leader in creator merch over the years. Which is, again, massively exciting. So we're seeing a lot of new creator economy style businesses booming. Now that's one side of the coin. In terms of the content, I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen, but the Sidemen have launched their own like Disney Plus style subscription service.
Yeah, I did.
They did it with.
They have an app as well, do they?
Yeah.
Sidemen Plus, is it?
It's something like that. And honestly, it's incredible. But like, we're going to see these waves of things in motion, and it's interesting because, I guess YouTube tried to launch, YouTube. I think it was YouTube. Maybe not YouTube Plus, maybe like YouTube Premium, where people would subscribe to people's YouTube accounts.
It seemed like it was combating Patreon at the time.
Exactly. But all of these companies are like, well, why do we need to pay another platform to do that? I'd rather keep my own social network platforms free to my audiences, but then have like a premium separate, which is where everything's on the Plus. I'm not sure if you saw as well. FaZe Clan came out earlier this week and actually said that they wanted to do an IPO for $1 billion, and this was to reinvest in new technology, reinvest in their content, because they launched FaZe Studios the other year. So there is a lot of money being poured into creator content, and ultimately it's because everyone as a consumer is just so hungry for more content, and it's not anymore the Skies and the Netflix is dominating that.
Cool, great. And give the audience an idea, how many people are at Influencer?
So there's 75 of us now. We're growing really fast. We'll be 100 by the end of this year, and that's spread across our London PM offices. We're opening in Manchester next month. We're opening in Dubai next month.
Wow.
And we're also opening in New York in Q1 next year.
Oh, congrats.
Super exciting. So it's a crazy journey, and it's just crazy at the moment.
Yeah, great. And I was asking that question because I wanted to ask you next. Just that you talked earlier about like technology. You talked about the processes, and like you talked about bringing in great people, like with raising money. Which elements do you think are most important of them, like people, process, tech, strategy? Or do you treat them all kind of equally important?
I think an effective campaign is using kind of like all of the above, so to speak. So, strategy, insights, and technology are our three pillars. Ultimately, for us as a business, we help advertisers, adapt their top-level media plans and to make them influence marketing relevant strategy. And we do that through the use of insights. So, we understand what's trending on social. We understand, what's going to make a campaign really deliver that strong return of investment. And ultimately, we want to be representing better results to clients by not just showing them how many likes or how many comments a campaign's got, but also showing them what level of purchase intent was driven, what sort of sales conversions we're getting from this, and that's been a massive focus for us. And then the technology essentially underpins it all, because you can have the best strategy and you can have the best insights, but ultimately scale is important, and you can't scale an influencer marketing campaign without a technology.
Yeah.
And essentially that's what our tech provides. It's a scaled collaborative workflow element to influencer marketing.
Yeah, cool. What's the one thing in the business you think a lot about where it's like, if we could fix that, we could scale much quicker? Or is there something like that?
If we fix that, we could scale much quicker. I'd say, it's a really good question. I think, there's always areas to improve as an entrepreneur, and I think there is always things where perhaps you want to build things much quicker. I'd say at the moment, the biggest thing is talent in the market.
Yeah.
So we obviously spoke about earlier about the influx of cash from private equity, venture capital. Now, what that's actually doing is it's meaning that salary prices are massively driving up right now.
Yeah.
Because essentially, these companies or these newly raised venture capital, backed companies are coming into the market and are being told, you've got these aggressive growth targets to now hit them, and the only way that they can do them is getting the best staff on board. So we've had people approach our team being like, tell us we're an influencer, we'll pay you double. And it's honestly crazy. And it's something which, when we talk about whether these overinflated valuations are going to continue, you have to wonder how they're going to run a sustainable business from an operating margin perspective. But that's currently where the market's at. Things will level out eventually. I suppose in answer to your question, what's one thing to fix is, I guess seeing that adjustments back to normal on things like salary and
getting talent.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. And I was going to ask you as well, just thinking back actually, like bringing on your first employees. I think Hester, who I met briefly, was maybe your first employee, and then Casper came on board. What does Casper work closely with you today and in the business, and what's his role in the business today?
Yeah, so it feels strange to think that Hester first member through the door, and obviously she's still here today, which is awesome.
She did an amazing job setting up this podcast for us.
She's absolutely amazing, and she's very, very loyal and committed, and I'm amazed she hasn't killed me yet. But no,
you said that last time I talked to you as well.
Honestly, she's been an absolute rock to me personally as well. But we've obviously scaled, grown, opened multiple offices, continue to open multiple offices, won some incredible clients. And it's a real testament to everyone along the influencer journey. I suppose for Casper and I, it's been amazing to think about back to that first chat we had and that coffee that we had about where we want to take influencer. Totally different from that conversation, but it's been a really exciting journey. For Casper, he's much more like his role title influencer is Chief Visionary Officer. Cool. Because he is thinking the bigger picture. He's getting his ears nice to the ground to find out what's going on in the market, how can we adapt. So he's currently focused a lot on the tech side with the creators, and we're building quite a few creator economy style pieces of technology which will help grow the business, but help us collect a lot more first party data on the creators. So that's where he's really getting involved, but he also gets involved in things like the creative strategy side. So working with both our brands and the agencies that we work with to basically help them adapt their top level media plans to those influencers.
Great. And I think from the outside looking in, seeing Casper come on, or Casper start the business with you and everything, I think it's like, wow, what a marketing vehicle for getting new clients, and as well to just be like, I am a creator and I've done it already. So that seems really impressive. And on that, I was going to say, your content marketing is amazing, and you and Casper are speaking on like a lot of panels. You're launching a new podcast as well.
Yeah, we are launching a new podcast. It's called Mentors.
Mentors.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
So something which we'll be launching, which is obviously trying to get as many episodes out, or as many episodes recorded as possible. So
I would recommend that.
Otherwise, we're worried that we'll commit to saying we'll do like one every couple of weeks, and then we'll just
Okay, so Mentors launching soon. Look it up. We'll link to it if it's live when this goes live. And so this content machine and which is great. And at previous companies I've been at, like Tuber Labs, content marketing is so important. We did kind of like a leaderboards thing that used to be shared on LinkedIn a lot. I was looking at your LinkedIn, and you're posting stuff daily, and you've 36,000 followers there now, and it's great. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it's mad. I think LinkedIn is my favorite social network personally. Like, I love it. Like, it's a great source of information. It's like work related. I find out quite a lot of my news from there as well. And I suppose, the content marketing's always been a key pillar to us, because we, back, maybe it was 2 years ago, we basically said as a business, there's a lot of basically shit going on in the influencer marketing industry. So we want to basically be making a lot of good education.
Yeah.
And the way to make good education is to be seen as educators.
Yes.
And the way to do it is get, as much informative content out as possible.
Yeah.
So
become a trusted advisor.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's all part of the mission. So we're getting out a lot of content. We have, it's not all just me, just for my personal, from my personal LinkedIn. It's conversations in the morning, with the marketing team saying, have we spotted any new trends which would be interesting for me to then write posts about?
Yeah.
So then I'm then like, okay, well, that would be an interesting one. Let me go away and actually write it. So I'd love to say that I'm the brain behind all the content, but I'm not. I'm just there, writing it and actually, authentically talking about it.
I think the impact of that, though, like for the business, I'm sure you guys get a great return on investment with that. Yeah, cool. And then, thinking about your journey over the last 6 years, what have been like some of the challenges, mistakes, or learnings along the way?
I mean, there's been plenty of mistakes, plenty of challenges. I think, it's been an incredible journey, and I think for us, the biggest kind of like learning, I would say, is fail fast. And it's not something which, at the start I was used to. I would see something not necessarily working out, and I would try and plaster fix it to eventually make it work. But really, especially in the early stages, you have to just be willing to basically just, something's not working, just to say, that's it, move on. And like, you see it with technology a lot, where people are developing a piece of technology and then something, and like they build features which no one really uses. And then rather than trying to make those features more attractive, hand them off, move on to a different feature. And you can do that, by obviously thinking about product steering groups and things, things like that. But fail fast is something so that you can quickly adapt to move forward.
It's a great one. And with that, when I hear you talk about that, I'm like, focus as well, right? So like, if you have focus areas and then, okay, you fail on a few of them, now we've new focus areas, or we put more time into other areas. How do you do that as a business in terms of like your planning, like in a quarterly and yearly basis and stuff? Do you have any tips or systems? Or
yes, good question. So I suppose for us, focus is massive. So we're very, very transparent with the company over our 3-year goals and our 12-month goals. And we do basically an end of quarter where we look back on our performance of the quarter, talk about our achievements, our learnings, and that's when we basically re-bring to the forefront of everyone's mind what those 3-year goals are, what those 12-month goals are. The thing is, though, obviously when you're looking at things for that longer term vision, sometimes they can be seen as like almost like stretch goals, and people think, oh, it's fine, it's in 12 months time, or it's fine, it's in 3 years time. So what we do, I don't know if you've read this book, but it's a great book called Traction, which basically has this concept of rocks, which are essentially 90-day goals. So we break down our 3-year goals are connected to our 1-year goals, so it makes them more in reach, and then our 1-year goals then actually stem into 90-day goals. So we basically have 5 company rocks that we want to hit. Tends to be separated. Maybe there's one commercial, there's one product related one, there's one marketing related one, and we're very transparent with the company that these are what we want to hit over the next 90 days. And then at the next end of quarter, we'll evaluate the performance on them. And what's quite interesting there is we have these company rocks, but every single person at Influencer has their own personal 90-day goals as well, which helps with their own personal development, but also helps ensure that we're all striving towards those company rocks, because they're all interlinked.
Cool. I think that process is so important. I've seen at Google, like they have that nailed down, that OKR process, and it works really well. Cool. And what question for you? Like, what motivates you in general to have built this business, and what motivates you? What makes you tick?
I suppose what motivates me most is like for Influencer, it's incredible to see how far we've come today, and it's incredible to see how so many of the people that were in the original first 10 hires, first 20 hires, first 30 hires are still here today, and how far they've developed themselves. And to me, that's just so exciting because they're all like trailblazers within the influencer marketing industry, and they're all people who are going to go on to do even more incredible things. So that motivates me seeing that, and of course there's always the motivation to I guess make family friends proud, because I was that guy who dropped out of university, took the big risk, and a lot of pressure was on at that point. It seems to be going all right now.
Amazing, well done.
It's making them proud and making, I guess, their continued faith in me as well.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. You're proving them that right, wrong. Yeah, wrong. I guess if there was any doubt. Well done. And I think we talked about as well. Actually, when we cut up previously, we were talking about like you bringing in like some people who really know the business and great leaders. And I think we talked about like imposter syndrome and like people feel imposter syndrome a lot. And what does imposter syndrome mean to you? Yeah.
I mean, imposter syndrome is something which I think every entrepreneur will always face. And I think it's because you have massive ups and downs over your career, because you will have so many no's, you'll have so many failings, so many challenges. But essentially what imposter syndrome is that feeling when you're kind of going into a room and you're like, why am I here? Like, why do I deserve to be in this room? And like, we spoke about the content marketing side of things. I often get it when I'm like going on stage, speaking at a conference. I'm like, how have I had like, why do I deserve to be here? I don't. There are so many, incredible speakers here. Or like, when I go and meet a CMO, I'm like, this is mad to think that I'm 25 and I'm sitting across from the CMO of, one of the world's largest companies. But ultimately, I think, the way you have to overcome that is you have to think, well, look, you deserve to be in this room. The fact that someone has been willing to, book a meeting in with you, or the fact that, you've been invited to talk here, means that someone thinks that you deserve to be there. So make them proud almost. So for me, that's how, I do have a lot of imposter syndrome, but that's how I overcome it in those kind of situations. And then, I think in terms of some key advice, just in general about growing a business and growing a scale up, you mentioned about, I guess what I said was, I always want to make sure that with the team that we're growing around us, that, you're never the smartest person in the room. And the way you do that is you just make sure you hire people who are specialists in different verticals. So making sure that you hire the best person at products, you hire the best commercial person, the best finance person, the best marketing person, the best people person. And the reason why that's so important is because all of those specialisms, so to speak, will help then grow the business forward, because they all have different perspectives on things. And it's really important that when you hire those people, you give them autonomy to actually do what they what they're brought into and what they want to do. Obviously, there's checks and balances in place, but ultimately, you brought them for that experience. Let them basically help grow the business.
I think that last point as well is something maybe founders struggle with sometimes when they have such control to leave it go if you hire this person and trust this person.
Massively.
Good. And what are you so coming near the end now, but in terms of like the influencer space, the creator economy is booming. What are you most excited about currently about the influencer space?
I'd say what I'm most excited about, two things. On terms of influence marketing and brand partnerships, is kind of like the re-emergence of platforms. So I'm really excited to see LinkedIn next year. They've just made some quite key hires from other social platforms to basically lead their creative solutions teams. I think Snap's really going to come back in the fold next year. We've seen early signs of Pinterest coming back in the fold campaigns as well. So I'm really excited to see how those platforms play a part in influence marketing next year. We're seeing a lot of campaigns as well move to much more ambassadorship focused campaigns. Long-term planning. And the reason being is, influence marketing is moving in a direction where, you want creators who are going to maybe only align to a few brands or products or services a year, and that's where the brand partnerships play a key part. So I'm excited to see how that will develop, because that will only strengthen the trust and the authenticity in the industry. But I suppose I'm just so excited about the creator economy. I'm excited about the kind of money being poured in. I'm excited to see how creators play a key part in other forms of like, life, whether that be in content production, seeing them in Netflix series, whether that be in, the creator economy, making new apps. There's so much there. I'm excited to see how that
works. Cool. And actually what you said earlier about LinkedIn, I saw Pinterest hired someone who was like 10 years partnerships in YouTube yesterday. Malik, I think is his name, but it seems like some of these key people are moving into other companies now to replicate the YouTube model, Facebook, Instagram model.
I think they've all got so much confidence in the creator economy. And the partnerships there. So I think, essentially this is what's happening. They're bringing key personnel across to help grow social networks.
I think that's fascinating because I think like if you look at the stages of these platforms, it's like, okay, they got to convince the media companies to come on, and now the influencers in terms of like attention and audience consumption has just passed a lot of these media companies a lot of time, even though you see people like Simon like taking formats from TV in their content. So fascinating times. Cool. And then finishing up, what are you most proud of in your career to date?
Big question. I'm most proud, I mentioned how far everyone's come in the company. I think we hit a really cool milestone a couple of weeks ago as a business. We signed our first 8-figure campaign.
Congratulations.
Which is really exciting. It's a big milestone, and it was a global a global account for a brand. And I suppose these sort of things are all those stepping stones along the journey. They will help you get to a certain stage. I think I'm only excited more for where influence can go over the next few years, and where the influencer marketing industry and the creator economy can go.
Great. Well, Ben Jeffries, thank you so much for coming on to Coffee for Scalers. Looking forward to your podcast that's launching in the next few weeks. Mentors, right? Make sure everyone check that out. And thanks for coming on board. So much knowledge about influencer from your time at influencer.com.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate coming on to this.
Thank you, Ben.